started getting really full on and asking me some really difficult questions. She sort of took my responses and threw them back at me in a very accusatory manner. She accused me of being some selfish, pig-headed and stupid. I got really angry, and then the other doctor, presumably it was a doctor, turned around and said that it was all part of the experiment. After that, I got paid $100, and a couple of days later I was contacted by someone called Robert Henley. The way that it works with Neurocam is that they tell us that whenever we pull out, that's it. We'll never find out anything more.
As far as I was concerned, it didn't happen in Melbourne. You know, the fact that I had a paper bag on my head and I'm being moved between cars, you know, I was stunned about how was it that the police weren't being called? Why? How could this happen? I was led into a room where there was once again eerie music playing. I then had the paper bag put back over my head.
In 2004, a billboard was spotted in Melbourne, Australia, and due to this billboard's placement, it would have cost at least $10,000 at the time, as thousands of people would have been impressed by it over its existence. In subsequent years, more billboards would continue to pop up that were almost identical in nature. These billboards simply read, "Get out of your mind," and linked to a website called Neurocam.com. These billboards promptly garnered tons of speculation from the local press, and many articles promptly took to the story to provide further attention to this mysterious piece of advertising. At first glance, this individual billboard obviously looks like some kind of marketing stunt to get individuals intrigued in some kind of product. It would appear like this company is trying to manipulate us onto their site. Obviously, someone paying for a billboard must be looking for a way to make some money back on their investment. 99.9% of the time, that would be the exact case, but not with Neurocam. It's fair to say that these billboards would end up being something that no one could have anticipated. All I can say about these billboards right now is that the only way I can describe it to you is that these lead down one of the most bizarre and prolific internet rabbit holes I have ever seen. Upon visiting that website, very few of those initial questions would get answers. Upon first viewing the site, a video would automatically download, making you and your computer feel incredibly violated. This file is nci.mov, and it is about a minute long, and it would seem like whoever set this up wants to look at it first. So let's take a look. Here we see, in this movie, various masked figures. This entire video is trying to set the stage and seemingly provide social proof that there are people within this organization. However, we still obviously don't know their intention. In 2004, something like this would have been incredibly novel. The appeal of secret societies is something that at this time was basically the main conspiracy theory among all conspiracy theories when you had the History Channel rolling. So what kind of organization would exist with this amount of people to be able to create a teaser trailer, pay for billboards, yet remain completely anonymous at the time? This naturally fueled skepticism and curiosity. Moving on to the website, we learned that this website wasn't actually selling anything. In fact, this website really only told you what it wasn't. On the website's top right corner, under another tab, we get a disclaimer that read the following. Below this disclaimer, we get a quote. Some of the most rewarding experiences we have come about through random circumstances of which we have no real understanding. It is sometimes important to commit to something we know very little about if the act of commitment in and of itself becomes part of an experience. Bridget Fisher, CEO, Asia Pacific Quadrant, Neurocam International. Now, moving on to the rest of the site, it contained a reports tab, which required a password, and a registration page where you could enter your email, alias, age, and city. At the bottom, it read, Neurocam respects your privacy and will not use your email address for any other purposes outside of Neurocam operations. So what exactly are we about to get ourselves into? This is incredibly bizarre, and we are taking a leap of faith. I will say this website is now defunct, but there are many accounts of what would occur initially after you sent your details here. I will now direct your attention to a blog titled WTFisNeurocam.blogspot.com, where one user accounts for hearing about Neurocam at a party and seeing the billboard, which prompted him to sign up. In a post on this blog spot titled Going Down the Rabbit Hole, we get direct access to what this person went through, documented extensively. 1 week after submitting his information, he received the following email. Dear applicant, thank you for expressing interest in Neurocam. Your application has been forwarded to a designated officer within the Human Resources Security Division so that our organization can further evaluate your suitability for recruitment. In the interest of facilitating an expedient assignment, the Human Resources Security Division is currently implementing a series of background checks. We apologize in advance for the potentially intrusive nature of these checks and assure you that Neurocam International only undertakes this course of action in the interest of protecting our proprietary operational procedures. Any information gathered from this historical evaluation will be treated as strictly confidential. If your application is successful, you will be contacted by Mr. Charles Hastings, head of Neurocam International's Operations Division. Mr. Hastings will further inform you of the nature of tasks Neurocam requires you to complete. Any unsuccessful application will result in the cessation of further correspondence between Neurocam and yourself. Neurocam appreciates that in 83.6% of instances, new applicants experience a desire to inquire about many issues which may further enlighten them as to the true nature of Neurocam. Due to the need to maintain a high level of operational security, Neurocam is unable to provide much of the information desired by entry-level participants. Thank you once again for expressing interest in Neurocam. I hope that your application will be successful and I will soon have the pleasure of working with you. Regards, Maxwell Knight, Head, Human Resources Security Division, Neurocam International. Taking a look at this first email, we can see why this interestingly built more desire for users inquiring. They weren't directly dropped into what this was. The mention of a need for a background check obviously adds a certain degree of speculation as to what the hell is going on here. Not to mention, the further requirement to wait, after waiting a week, made people even more eager to learn what was going on. In most cases for something like this, you'd expect an automated email right after you signed up, but this simply wasn't the circumstance. After a week later, another email would come through. Dear applicant, to continue with Neurocam's application process, all applicants are required to complete the following perception-based assessment. An assessment of the applicant's suitability for operational deployment will be made following the fulfillment of these non-negotiable prerequisites. Application Perception Assessment NCI 2001/01. Part A, Mission. Assess applicant's perception abilities. Part B, Execution. Point number 1, write a detailed account of everything that happens between 4 and 9 p.m. Pay particular attention to any occurrence which may be deemed out of the ordinary. Include in your account 2 images that represent the best and worst things to happen on that particular date. Point number 2, submit this report via email to operations@neurocam.com by close of business date. Part C, Operational Security, not applicable. Part D, Guidelines. As with all Neurocam assignments, you will be assessed on the manner in which you complete this assignment. Intelligence and creativity are traits highly valued by Neurocam, and a demonstration of both of these will expedite your further advancement within the organization. Your application and aptitude in this assignment will be the basis for consideration for operational integration. Ends Applicant Perception Assessment NCI-2001/01. Regards, Charles Hastings, Head, Operations Division, Neurocam International. operations@neurocam.com. Here we see in this email that part of their initiation, they were required to complete an assignment by a certain deadline to receive further correspondence. For what possible reason would they need you to note anything that happens within a 5-hour time window? This is a long period of time, but it seems like the motive for creating something like this would be to condition your applicants that if they wanted to know the answers and what was going on here, they were going to have to dedicate some time from the get-go if they wanted any answers. I will read on from the blog post following this individual as they went through with this assignment. For a little bit though, I will let his writing take over for a moment. The following Monday at 4 p.m., I armed myself with a notebook and a small digital camera. I finished my work around 5 and was home around 6. I made dinner and watched some TV. I didn't notice anything particularly out of the ordinary, but I thought that maybe I was looking too hard. During the tram ride home, I was hyper aware of everyone around me, and it seemed that several of them were staring at me. Or was I staring at them? When I got off the tram, I kept checking to see if anyone was following me. When at home, I frequently looked out the windows to see if anyone was watching me from a parked car outside. I waited for strange phone calls or a knock at the door. Nothing happened. I paid extra attention to the TV, thinking perhaps that they would try to get a message to me that way, but nothing stood out. At 9 p.m., I started transcribing the incredibly dull events of the last 5 hours. I kept worrying that I had failed the test and that Neurocam would reject me, which was totally irrational, of course, as I didn't even know exactly why I was doing this in the first place. I was honest in my account of the events that transpired, although I considered embellishing the facts to impress them with my creativity. I took a picture of the perfectly cooked steak I had for dinner and the resulting mountain of dirty dishes to represent the best and worst things of my day. Not particularly imaginative, I know. I emailed off the report to Mr. Hastings and felt torn between resentment for being manipulated into the situation in the first place and gratitude for examining a small slice of my own life in more detail. I laughed at the idea that someone at Neurocam headquarters sitting down and reading such a boring diary. I wondered if they had thousands of people all over the world doing exactly the same thing. Over the next week, I sporadically Googled Neurocam to no avail. I found it incredible that a supersite billboard linking to a website with presumably high traffic would generate no web presence whatsoever. This further fueled my paranoia that this was a unique experience set up for my own benefit, which I knew was an absurd and highly improbable idea. I patiently waited for the response to my perception assessment assignment. Finally, 1 week to the hour, things took a turn for even more bizarre when I received an email from Mr. Hastings, who had another task for me. Here, our individual author notes that at this point they were becoming paranoid and to a certain degree they felt manipulated. And yes, they were being manipulated by their own curiosity. What's interesting to note as well is that while one might assume that each individual task was cookie cutter, everyone did not actually go through the same tasks. But let's get back to our protagonist on this blog. Dear applicant, to conclude Neurocam's application process, all applicants are required to complete the following assignment. Assignment, Neurocam Identifier, Covert Delivery, NCI 3001/02. Part A, Mission, the successful covert and secure collection of standardized Neurocam identifier. The secure transfer will be executed as follows. Deviation from operational protocol as outlined will result in instant termination of your involvement with Neurocam. Part 1. Travel to the secure transfer location. Refer to the map provided. Part 2. At this location, carefully camouflaged, there is an electronic safe. Using the map provided, locate the safe. Part 3. Carefully remove the camouflage. I don't know why it skipped part 4. Part 5, enter the code 159A to open the safe. Part 6, take only the package with your operative ID written on it. Part 7, re-secure the safe. Part 8, replace camouflage in such a way to ensure that Neurocam's property remains unable to be easily located by non-Neurocam personnel. Part 9, vacate the area. Part 10, once in a secure location, open the package. Part C, this assignment must be successfully completed by this certain date. Part D, operational security. The operations division appreciates that attendance at a remote locale based primarily on correspondence and data gathered via telecommunications is known to raise risk profile issues with respect to urban environment factors. To address potential concerns of operational personnel in this instance, permission is granted to invite a person of your choice to accompany you while executing this mission. Your judgment in this case is being trusted and, of course, judged. Should you elect to do so, choose a companion that will be trusted to not disclose any other party Neurocam's operational protocol and proprietary industrial practices. Please be aware, for the purpose of additional security and quality control, you may be monitored throughout the completion of this assignment. Neurocam International is aware that many operatives are tempted to publicly discuss and relate their Neurocam experiences via online forums, web journals, and the media. Operatives are strictly not permitted to disclose the details of operational assignments under any circumstances. Any operatives in breach of this protocol will be immediately terminated. Regards, Charles Hastings. On this blog post, this guy actually documents himself going to this location. Many people probably wouldn't be comfortable traveling to an unknown location at this point for good reason. Having to retrieve something from a mysterious safe from an unknown party for unknown reasons sounds like a terrible idea. At this point, this seems ripe for some type of crime. Keep in mind, no information was readily available on Google for this, and someone venturing off at this point was completely taking a leap of faith into the dark. As with all tasks, this was paired with a deadline, once again, which meant that if someone wanted any idea of knowing what was going on here, they had to comply in a timely manner or risk losing contact. As I said previously, our blogger, among with many others, did just that. I will let his writing take over once again. At about 6 p.m. on a balmy Tuesday evening, I drove along Mount Alexander Road and parked at a community center opposite the car yard marked on the map. I skirted around the car yard, down an embankment, and under a bridge that took me to a large concrete expanse leading to the red pillars. The scale of them at such close range was impressive, and it took me some time to walk away to the pillar at the far end. Apart from some kids on some skateboards off in the distance, there was no one around. I thought of Neurocam's claim that I might be monitored on this assignment and looked around for surveillance cameras. Nothing stood out. Once near the base of the pillar, I had to climb up through the garden area, which consisted of large grass tussocks among wood chips. At the base of the pillar, there was no sign of an electronic safe or a team of people with cameras hiding in the tussocks. I stood there for a while feeling foolish, thinking that this might after all have been someone's idea of a cruel joke. I guess it was possible that pranksters could have money to waste on such activities. I was just about to leave when I noticed the wood chips at the base of the pillar that seemed slightly wrong in some sort of way. I knelt down on the ground and dug a bit. Finding the edge of what felt like an old bit of carpet, I tugged at it and lifted a squarish section of matting about 50 centimeters wide. When I pulled it right back, spilling the wood chips everywhere, I saw an electronic safe set in the slab of concrete beneath. It was the most surreal thing. So unlikely, but there it was. Still expecting the candid camera crew to come running out, I entered the code I had been given into the high-tech looking digital touchpad. There was a small beeping sound, and a click, and a light flashed from red to green. I lifted the handle of the door and opened it upwards. Inside the surprisingly deep cavity was a pile of yellow envelopes stamped with Neurocam's logo and hermetically sealed in clear plastic wrap. Each envelope had a handwritten name on it, presumably operatives' names. There must have been about 100 in total. I pulled them all out, sorted through the intriguing names like Tyleps, Midnight, Elorana, until I found one with my own operative name on it. I was very tempted to open someone else's envelope, but worried that I was being watched and this was strictly against Neurocam's instructions. Following my orders, I put all the envelopes back, closed the safe, and replaced the matting and wood chips. I made my way back to my car without seeing anybody or anything unusual. Once inside my car, which I considered a secure location, I opened the envelope. It contained a typed letter on Neurocam letterhead, signed personally by Neurocam's mysterious CEO, Bridget Fisher, along with a small orange badge with a strange logo resembling an all-seeing eye on it. I read the letter. Dear Operative, welcome to Neurocam. I am pleased to advise that I hereby offer you a position within Neurocam International. Your perception assignment report was evaluated in accordance to our predetermined assessment criteria. Neurocam's Human Resources and Security Division found that your report demonstrated a minimum of 7 out of the 10 qualities desired by Neurocam International. This rating determines that you will be an appropriate candidate for operational deployment. Neurocam International hopes that you will accept this offer and that this act will mark the beginning of a sustained mutually beneficial association with our organization. Upon acceptance of our offer, you will immediately receive accreditation for ongoing operational deployment, a privilege achieved by less than 26% of applicants. Your operational deployment will be effective immediately. The details of your first assignment must remain confidential until such time as the Operations Division contacts you. Be aware, the date of your first assignment will be determined by a variety of factors, including, but not limited to, your location, your age, and the state of any current Neurocam operations within your area. Although your deployment is effective immediately, Neurocam cannot guarantee the exact date upon which you will receive your first assignment. Being part of Neurocam is a responsibility we expect you to take very seriously. Neurocam International highly prizes itself on its strong corporate image and reputation, and your continued involvement with us is conditional upon the demonstration of a public manner which will in no way reflect poorly upon the organization. Conduct contrary to this condition, such as overt aggression, physical violence, or any similarly embarrassing or disruptive behavior displayed during the completion of assignments will result in the immediate termination of your involvement with the organization. Congratulations on completing Neurocam's application process. I take great pleasure in being the first to welcome you to the Neurocam team. Regards, Bridget Fisher, CEO, Neurocam International. Alright, now we need to take a step back to get a good understanding of what is going on, as it is really easy to get lost in these blog posts. If you look at many of the operative blogs from 2005, many of them joined in a similar fashion. I will say that all of the tasks are not identical though. However, past the recruitment phase, the tasks seem to change quite a bit. The purpose of these tasks or what they were used for at the time was still completely unknown. So what was this company recruiting for? Up until 2005/2006, this was all that was basically known about Neurocam. Many of the tasks seem very trivial, I will note. People speculated and argued among blogs, but no one seemed to have a consistent answer. The general gist, and all that was known, like I said, was that this group would assign you tasks that varied on a wide scale for seemingly no reason. As with most ARGs, they usually have a start point and end point. This one seemed a little bit different. Keep in mind that there was real money being synced into this thing, so people figured that this group had to be making some kind of money on the back end, but this just simply wasn't the case. There were other Neurocam recruits that cataloged their stories with other recruits on their individual operative blogs, like I said. They would all link them together, and it created a kind of social media feed amongst themselves. This game seemed to foster a community that would force strangers to work collectively on things. Many recruits would join from a simpler task, then get promoted, and then would be given a new task that would in many cases involve the recruitment of more members. These tasks would usually be about printing cards, leaving photos that would have the Neurocam logo on them, and would link back to the website, and would create a new cycle in which other new recruits would go through the exact same process. At some point in the early years of this being on the internet, people got sick of going through this individual cycle that was self-perpetuated and started to look for more practical solutions to this mystery. The name Robin Henley was passed around quite a bit, as this name was found to be linked to the Neurocam website address. Many people believe this to be an individual alias, however, that was later disproven. There were quite a few people in the community at the time who started to talk about who this guy was, and they also found him linked to the Better Business Bureau with a business called Neurocam registered in 2000. Here is a post from one of the many operative blogs that were dedicated to discussing Neurocam. I meant to post this much earlier, but things got hectic. One of the many questions swirling around Neurocam is the Robin Henley question. It's the classic chicken and the egg. Where's Henley? Who is Robert Henley? And the Neurocam is mind control projects as inspired reaction to the real Neurocam, or is Henley the creator of the whole shebang? I don't have the answer to that. Like I have the answer to anything Neurocam related. But I do have this. Robin Mark Henley has been the sole proprietor of an Australian company, Neurocam, since September 6, 2000. The New Zealand Neurocam, if you recall, wasn't formed until August 11, 2004. There were two names that were passed around, Robert Henley and Robin Henley. Robert Henley ended up being an alias. However, Robin Henley was a performance artist. Basically, Robin Henley's entire performance artist career is based on messing with people to some degree. or deceiving them in some way. Looking into his older website, which has now been removed, showed various hidden camera videos and other forms of content, most of which consisted of messing with people. One of his acts involved a missing person act where he made himself disappear. He would post missing photos or missing posters of himself and then would go walking around town blatantly and then would create a compilation of people calling in to say they had located him, thus creating a timeline of where he was walking around that day. This is interesting, but the other thing is that still, some people didn't understand why someone would go to all these lengths and spend so much money. They would have to hire people to design the website and do all the tasks of this individual operation that was operating on quite a large scale, yet there was still no money component to this at all. If you recall, those billboards cost about $10,000 in 2004, which isn't even adjusted for inflation. Even if we knew who was behind it all, what's the reason for creating something like this? Robin Helly's name at this point was linked to Neurocam in some way, but people couldn't finally put the last piece of the puzzle together for a while. Not until much later, in 2011, a documentary trailer was announced called WTF is Neurocam, in which a reporter would come and take an objective look into uncovering what the entire thing was about. Weirdly enough, though, this was produced by Robin Helly himself, so many people speculated that this was a way for him to make his money back. However, what was weird is I don't actually believe this individual documentary was sold anywhere or made any money whatsoever, because even though Robin Helly produced this thing, what was weird is that I couldn't locate this film anywhere. The clips that I used in the intro I believe to be from the individual documentary. There are several clips that are floating around, but not the entire thing, which is 75 minutes long. There's an IMDb page where there are acting credits and a full profile on the entire film and the trailer, but that's about it. This film clearly did not make any money. Nonetheless, let's take a look at that film trailer.
Do you see that sign up there? Could you tell me, what do you think get out of your mind means, and do you know what Neurocam is?
I don't know, man. Maybe they finally made us legal or something.
I think Neurocam could be some sort of brain camera, maybe?
It began with a billboard, then an innocent exploration through cyberspace. Soon Graham Hinstock found himself on secret assignment, an agent of a shadowy organization. What is Neurocam? What is it?
That's the $10 million question, if I knew that.
One thing that is clear is that Neurocam get people to do things for them in the hopes of solving the mystery. These assignments vary in nature and are often extremely dubious in terms of ethics and even the law.
Fuck it, shit, just get it out of here.
Operative Tripped?
Yeah, Operative Nika?
Yes, do you have something for me?
You're probably already a bit nervous with the spy cam as it is, huh?
Yeah, thanks. I'm already paranoid enough. You gotta mention that now while I'm standing out here.
What the hell are you staring at, you creep?
I'm sorry.
No, don't give me that. You've been following me from down the road.
So sorry. I thought you were someone I recognized, but
well, I'm not, yeah, so leave me alone because
so
you're
sorry.
fucking creeping
Okay, I'll just
me
go.
out.
I'm sorry. Oh my God. Turn the light off, Maddie.
Okay. It's all good. Did she see us? No, she didn't see me. I'm just saying, is it worth the risk? I'm just concerned. I'm worried about you. Will's freaking out. Oh.
They're moving.
Oh, fuck, they're going.
Why are we doing what we're doing?
We are still making this film, aren't we?
So just to establish this lengthy timeline, in 2004, Neurocam's first billboards were spotted, and this community had been building ever since. And in 2011, it was announced that there would be an individual documentary produced by the guy who is likely the creator of it all. However, we never got that individual documentary released to the public. So what exactly happened? Well, we wouldn't get our answer until 2012, when Robin Helly got his PhD. Project Neurocam, an investigation, is Robert Helley's PhD thesis. It's 206 pages and leaves us with some incredibly fascinating looks into the situation at hand. I will do my best to summarize, but this is a lengthy read. The thesis itself covers a wide variety of topics. This includes, but is not limited to, the topic of creating Project Neurocam, the role of ARGs, flash mobs, hoaxes, audience interaction, secret societies, and producing a 75-minute documentary exploring the whole fake world he had created. These are just a few things that I picked out. There's a lot more information here, but just to note, if this sounds confusing, it's because it is. One of the big takeaways I got from reading this interesting and meta thesis is that this guy sought to create a work of fiction, his documentary, and wanted to see the results of audience interaction playing into the role of creating a fictional piece of artwork. Not only do we get to look into what it took to create Project Neurocam, we get to look at the entire story of what it would be like to be an operative that was written from our point of view. Part of his thesis is the story of how a person just like us would have gone down this individual rabbit hole. Keep in mind that this story that he writes from our perspective are actual operations that people would go through. It's from an outsider's perspective and is based on real operations that actually took place. The blog I was reading to you earlier, while there are many others like it out on the internet, is actually written by Robin Helley himself, and this exact piece of writing was also in his thesis. If we pick up where we left off and we wanted to read through this entire thing on his thesis, basically the process would have gone like this. People would join Neurocam, they would complete tasks in Neurocam, they would go up the ranks, recruiting new members, and then the ultimate end goal would be to finally meet the creator of the entire project, Robin Helley, in which the protagonist, which is us, confronts Robin Helley asking him what it was all about. So let me make this clear. This guy made a fake organization to tell a fictional story based on true events, and then at the end of this story, he created a fake interview with himself, all written from our point of view, which is incredibly meta, I must point out. I do have to hand it to him though, this is beyond creative, especially at this point in time. In 2004, people barely talked about ARGs, let alone created one this meta and self-perpetuating. This one only required one billboard, and then thereafter would get new recruits to consistently keep this thing alive for many years to come. With these new recruits as well, he was also able to offload much of the work, thus creating a fully self-sustaining ARG. Another thing I wanted to point out is that at this point in time, it's almost impossible to create something like this again, because due to the age of the internet at the time in 2004, many of the people involved in this weren't actually trying to solve the mystery, they just wanted to be a part of this group. Facebook still didn't have widespread adoption, and many of these people being brought together from the internet was still a relatively new concept, thus making this incredibly prolific at the time. In conclusion, I highly recommend that you go read through the entire thesis if you have the time. It's a good read. So if you want to go read about yourself, as I said, this story is written from your point of view, going through the entire operations involved with Neurocam, rising through the ranks, and seeing all the things you would have to do, I highly recommend you start on page 55. It is the initial blog post that we read through and builds off of that with all other subsequent missions, and the full story is really, really captivating. I want to leave you with one more thing before we end this video. At the time that this ended around 2012, something that a lot of people never really talked about is the fact that many people actually thought Robin Helley to be behind Cicada. While this has not been proven whatsoever, I will say though that both Cicada and Neurocam are both secret societies looking to recruit individual members by doing tasks for them. I will say that Cicada is by far much more prolific in terms of the puzzles required. However, the basis and premise is the same, and if the people behind Cicada are not some huge organization, it might be safe to assume that whoever created that individual ARG or puzzle was also taking influence from this individual Neurocam project. I don't think we'll ever know for sure, but it's still interesting to think about. That being said, this is Barely Sociable. Have a great night.